Welcome to the 8th Circuit Brainiacs' second annual roundtable discussion for Maybe Day, a day centered around the life of Robert Anton Wilson. Today we have Doug Wingate and Rachel Turetsky from 8th Circuit Ascension, as well as Mariana Pinzon from Cow Surfing Transformation Coaching, and Zach West, creator of the musical circuits model. Enjoy. Hello.
Hello.
So I wanted to discuss intelligence increase. That seems like a running thread or theme. So, Leary had his I squared, and Wilson took that and ran with it. And then Antero Ali put intelligence increase as exercises basically in his 8th Circuit brain book and his course that he taught. And so he asked us to define intelligence if we can, and then maybe consider ways to increase intelligence. And so I usually I have kind of a textbook definition of intelligence, which would be like the acquiring, integrating, and adapting knowledge and skills. And so it seems like Antar Ali would say that like each circuit was an intelligence, physical intelligence, emotional intelligence, etc., and that he also called each circuit a state, sort of a state of conscience. So my thing is, the more I go through the circuits and work exercises and make up my own exercises, that's how I feel like I absorb, integrate, and then use the intelligence that I'm kind of combining in those. So does anybody want to jump in and talk about how you maybe define intelligence and then subsequently increase it?
I don't know that I necessarily add to definition. I think definition can, just like anything, can be relatively subjective in terms of, you said accumulation and then utilization of knowledge or skills. And of course, Leary talked about the three phases of intelligence being receptivity, and these are sub phases of the 8 circuits that he built into a 24 sub circuit model, being receptivity phases, and then integration phases of that knowledge skill set, and then ultimately moving into a transition phase where you've integrated it to the point that you're sort of able to adapt it, make it your own based on your personal experience, and then be able to effectively convey what that has been meaningful to you or what you may have contributed based on that integration process. And so when I take a look at and think about increasing my own intelligence, that's what I really take in mind, is like it's an exploration period around whatever skill set or knowledge set I'm taking a look at, and then really sitting at it with it, trying to see how it fits into all of the other compartments and components and knowledge and skill sets that I have, and then how I can really embody that, and then potentially not move on from there, but expand that into other realms, and continue into a different knowledge set or skill set that may additionally contribute to that working knowledge.
Yeah.
And I would also add just an increase in adaptability, increase in just expanded awareness, being able to, so each, like you said, each circuit has its own sort of intelligence. And so to be able to move between the circuits, be aware of, what's at play, and to be able to just really get, as a human, right, we're just like these dynamic systems, and intelligence is like a dynamic system. And so to be able to, with intention, just increase one's self-awareness, increase one's perceptions, and have just realizing the neurorelativity of it all, and have more flexibility to be within oneself and within the world.
Yeah. All of that. All of that. And maybe for me specifically, I think the process of teaching and guiding others through the model has been part of my own integration process. So like it bites back, right? So if we have the absorb when I first learned about the model, integrate, starting working with the model, doing my own exercises with the model, and then the transmission phase of starting teaching about the model and about what I've learned creates a second loop of integration. And for me, this has been quite a journey now with like eight cohorts of students taken through the eight circuit, like, yeah, participants taken through the eight circuit brain model. And each time I go through, I also do the exercises, I also do that, and then I get also feedback loop from what my participants are experiencing and feedbacking and saying back about their experiments. So there's also a bit of like a collective integration process and a collective intelligence increase process happening there. And I would say that in general, just as I was listening to you guys, there's a part of the intelligence increase process that has to do with neuroplasticity, right? All these exercises, they promote and trigger neuroplasticity in a way that allows the brain to make new connections, to take in new information, to integrate what you've been learning in a different manner and make it your own. And I think that's making your own was something that Antero Ali stressed a lot also by like give the circuit your own names, and just make the model your own in some way as a testament also to the integration process of how you navigate with this model.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a few things came up with as you were talking. For me, is that or just kind of a common thread between what Rachel was saying and what you said in terms of neuroplasticity, and then Rachel was talking about adaptability and flexibility. And I think all of those are very important components, and that they're really they have a lot of similarities. Neuroplasticity, you're talking, down at the neuronal level, you're talking about the nervous system in the brain and like the more material element, but also that psychological flexibility and emotional flexibility, and just the as I work through the circuits with myself, and as I work with other people and have taught this as well. Like as the integration process is happening, you start to recognize like each one of these being a component of self, or a different type of intelligence that all we have access to, and then as you become more adept at familiarity with them and stepping into a particular circuit or viewpoint, taking a look at that, that your that flexibility comes into play. You're able to more fluidly move in and out and utilize them as it sees fit. And I've definitely had a very similar experience in terms of the teaching process being also a learning process for me and helping with the integration process. And really, that's how my first book came about. I was teaching a few people here in the local area about the eight circuits and started holding some courses. And the amount of additional information that came up and that grew from that course is really what developed into that book. So it was like, as we dug deeper into this, there was just more and more connections to different systems. In the book's case, it was more of like the Eastern currents. I'm coming from a background of Chinese medicine and philosophy, and seeing the similar threads that played into that. And like as people were asking questions, or as I was putting material together, each week I was putting together material, it expanded the amount and breadth of material that we were taking a look at grew each time, because well, it was just kind of an organic growth. But that's how that kind of came about. So that teaching process and that transmission process was really key to personal integration, but also personal growth and expansion. And it definitely increased my intelligence in that capacity.
Yeah, I like what you said about adaptability too, and how like I feel like when I know that I've integrated it well is when I can improvise with it. Like whatever it is. And so when I teach the musical circuits with musicians, every musician's different. A lot of them are on different instruments. And so if I can improvise with the model, I know that I've integrated it. So if I'm working with this person, I can improvise with them because they're different than the last person that I was working with. And so that's sort of, and the other thing about integration is I realized I have an absorption like obsession. I love to absorb and I absorb and I absorb and I absorb and like really until like I can just let it go and say I am not looking at this anymore for a while. It's like the way sort of dreaming integrates information. You know, there was this great example of this piano player who would practice and he wouldn't be able to do what he was like trying to do. He would go to sleep, wake up in the morning, and it would be there for him, right? So he integrated whatever it was while dreaming because we put together motor skills and all that kind of stuff while we dream. So it's almost like my integration. I was like, how am I integrating? Like, what the hell is integrating? How am I going to do this? And I was like, really, it's just putting it away and not thinking about it for a good week or whatever, or going to sleep, you know, and just not doing it. It'll integrate subconsciously on its own, you know.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for that. I mean, there's case after case or example after example of people who have been innovators and with big ideas, and like you'll hear stories about how they just spent years and years toiling over a particular problem, and it wasn't until they stepped away and either gave up or gave it space that the answer sort of revealed itself. There was this huge accumulation receptivity phase of like building that knowledge set so that answer could ultimately sort of reveal itself on its own, or like more subconscious, and yeah, a
I'm
lot
having
certainly happens in that sleep.
There's a whole book. I can never pronounce his name, but he talks about the stages of creativity in that flow book. It's like Mahali. Doug, I know you know who I'm talking about.
I know who you're talking about. I can't help you out.
No, I can't either. But the book is just called Flow, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. But that's the incubation phase where you take a lot of ideas, brainstorming, take information in, and you just like let it do its magic in your unconscious psyche, and then progress through the following creative manifestation phases.
I'm having an interesting experience with this absorption because usually my brain is also like addicted to information and absorption. But I feel like I reached at some point a level of obsession with the 8 circuit brain model that like then going into integration and transmission phase, which has been also very creative with all the like maps and courses and stuff I've been creating, that there's like a blockage to absorb more information. I feel like in the last few years, while I was like geeking on this and integrating and creating, I have had no capacity to absorb new stuff. That's what it feels to me. Like I have not read much other books. I have not like taken in much other information, like other than the bit of Substack reading here and there, podcasts here and there, but like systematically learning something new has been a bit off limits for me because I felt like I've been like saturated with everything I've taken in about this work, and I'm still in that process of transmuting it and creating it, and it feels like that can't take anything else in right now.
I go through similar cycles where it's just like consuming as many books on a subject or as much knowledge as I can come across for a good period of time, and then I just hit that saturation rate or saturation point, and then it's like I can't take in any more for a little while, and so like I'm reading all of this nonfiction and as much as I can on a particular subject, and then I have to step away, and if I'm reading, it has to be something like fiction, fantasy, something else, just to step my brain away from just absorbing, because it's hit that where I can't take more in until I get back to a point where I'm ready for it again. But yeah, it's like a cycle for me personally.
I think that's like after I graduated, I got my PhD and I finished my dissertation, defended it. I couldn't even open my laptop for about a year. I couldn't read anything. I just hit that burnout. But I think it's also just like that, again, talking about balance of circuits, it's that, overactive C3. And, you're reading all this stuff, you're, just absorbing it, you're processing this one thing, and then it kind of throws the rest of your system out of balance. So the importance of being able to recognize, when you put too much focus in, like, say, one circuit, like C3, to take that time to recalibrate, rebalance.
Yeah.
And
Give your
also bring the
C1
knowledge
system
into
some love.
like embodied knowledge, right? Is
Mhm.
not that it doesn't remain as C3 knowledge only. And I can imagine that for you, Zach, that's a bit easier because the playing music is already also an embodied situation. So you have like also integrated the circuit 1 to circuit 5 axis in that work, or like translating the circuit model into that. And I think finding a way to bring that knowledge into like a very embodied perception of them is also a task at some point. It's like step away from the circuitry things and see how it can be transmitted and embodied in a different mean. I like to integrate dance now into my workshops. Like I've made a playlist for the circuits, and when I take the people through the circuits, I let them dance to the music, and while they're dancing, I kind of give in some information to it, but so that they have like a more embodied experience of what is going on in that circuit.
I love that. And if you're open to it, open to sharing that playlist, I'd be very interested. I've been tossing that around as well, putting together some playlists. And if you don't, that's fine. But that's also been something that I've been thinking about, like different songs, different playlists that fit into a particular circuit, or if you're doing work with a particular circuit on a day, to have some songs that resonate for you with that. So I've been mulling that idea around. But I think that's
Perhaps
great.
we
I
can
love the dance component.
Perhaps we can do like a collaborative project on that and just create a Spotify playlist for every circuit, so
For
that
sure.
we like have like a circuit 1 playlist, a circuit 2 playlist, circuit 3, and just like toss our different songs in there, and then each of us can just like play with them while creating different journeys playlists.
Yeah, I'm totally down for that. I think there was a thread that happened on one of the Facebook groups at some point that had like what a song that somebody associates with a particular circuit. We could maybe dig that back up. But I love, yeah, more than happy to collaborate on playlists for that.
Yeah, me too. I actually have a group of people that I'm trying to get to write like an 8 song album or whatever that does the same thing, and will compose the songs for each circuit. I think that'd be pretty fun. They
Yeah.
don't know anything
I
about the circuits though, so
mentioned Sorry. Doug, I mentioned this to you, but if you recall, I was supposed to do a similar project with Rick Bader. He's a fantastic, like, does all this beautiful spiritual music, and we're going to do a sort of a playlist for like a psychedelic soundtrack, but divided into the circuit. So I'd like to you
yeah.
into that. I'll reach out to him again and maybe get that started.
Cool.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. One, I think that's kind of a cool little segue. I was also thinking that the idea of altered states of consciousness is another cool thread that goes through Leary and Wilson and Antero Ali, and that if each circuit is a state of consciousness, how do you feel like you can use, or do you use altered states of consciousness with the 8 circuit model?
Well, for me, you want to go first?
I
Yeah,
was
go
just
ahead.
thinking about, just because that's his currently, like, I'm sort of in a just a hiatus working with ketamine and psychedelics, but Doug is, he has the privilege of being in Oregon and as a licensed psilocybin facilitator. So
Yeah,
that's
I'm more than happy to talk about that. But Mariana, if you want to go ahead first.
No, go.
Um, okay. Um, yeah, so I mean, Rachel mentioned I am fortunate to have the opportunity to work in the psychedelic space legally here in Oregon. So, a licensed psilocybin facilitator. I work with the Integrative Psychiatry Institute, and we do um, group journeys with psilocybin. So that's one component where altered states, and it's been pretty incredible to sort of tie in or see the common threads that happen in that group dynamic, especially, but certainly in individual experiences as well, and my own experiences with with psychedelic induced altered states, especially over the years as I've become more acquainted with the Eighth Circuit model and really been looking at it through that lens, sort of see what states, what intensities lend themselves to, what circuit. So activation of circuit 6, the metaprogramming circuit, where I'm sort of reevaluating belief structures and thought patterns, versus just like entity encounters and archetypal encounters and archetypal imagery that's coming up, or the sort of neurogenetic threads of circuit 7. So accessing ancestors, or ancestral knowledge, or familial knowledge, or even species wide, um, or even beyond that. The relationship with the psilocybin itself, and the fungal, the ancient fungal knowledge that lies within that, in that relationship. So personally, seeing that dynamic come up, and then also being able to work with people in those states and seeing, they really tapped into that ancestral knowledge and or the different entities that come up as common threads between groups has been really interesting to see. So that activation of circuit 7 versus the non-dual states that people have very real death experiences. Like they often hit a point where they're like, well, I guess I'm just going to die now. And of course, it's ego death. They're not having a physical death, but it's, the intensity of it very much feels like they've died, or sometimes within a journey multiple times. So that the psychedelic capacity to hit, especially the upper circuits, and then the utilization of the lower circuits for integration has been a really great tool personally when working with people. Um, Beyond the psychedelics, I've been using various altered states, non-substance induced, so breath work and body work and meditation for many, many years, and now those tend to be where I tend to lean. So I've really found the potential in holotropic breathwork and various breathwork practices, and how efficient those can be in inducing an altered state of consciousness, while also not feeling um, like you're not dedicated to a 6-hour ride psychedelic experience. You have a lot more control over that. You can pull yourself out at any time, but also as you become more proficient with it, really being able to access those altered states very efficiently. And I think that also plays into that adaptability and that ability to pull that in and allow for more change or access to those things. So those have been kind of my experiences with altered states recently. It's been fun.
I'm glad you pointed that out, Doug, is just because there is so much focus on psychedelics as like this, which it is a great means potentially to break down pre-existing structures and beliefs. But there's so many other ways to go about. I mean, the whole point for intelligence increase, right, is to be able to um like, yeah, just challenge your pre-existing structures, relax those, transform. Um, and I think it could be kind of a trap for a lot of people. There's this addiction to peak experiences and higher doses and, ego death and like this obsession with like it has to be more and more intense when really if like um the motivation or the intention is self-transformation and growth, it's really just what are you trying to tap into? What are you exploring within yourself, and how do you reach those states? And it doesn't have to just be with, like a high dose of psychedelics to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something I really appreciate about Antaro's work too, and his emphasis on personal ritual and other components where you're not utilizing substances. Those can be very efficient for accessing and I guess getting some exposure to those states. But there's also the term, once you get the message, hang up the phone in relation to psychedelics. So like, it can be a tool to reach those altered states, but once you get that message, it doesn't really you don't have to be stepping into it. You don't have to be accessing it through psychedelics over and over again. As you become, like I said, more proficient with those states, become more familiar. And for me personally, able to tap into those without outside assistance, not to do short shrift to my fungal friends, but
That's like the integration, right? It's turning the altered states into altered traits. So if you do the integration, then
Nice one.
that experience that, is like a trait is something that's temporary experience of I'm sorry, a state is something that's like a temporary experience of something. And by making that, integrating that and making it more stable and turning it into, a state.
Yeah. In transpersonal psychology, they talk about states and the stages, and as you become more familiar with something, a temporary, short-lived experience is a state that you go into, an altered state, and as you become more familiar or it becomes more accessible, it becomes like a more of a stage that access. Yeah.
I'd like to, like from the perspective of chaos magic, I like to define chaos magic as the art of mind fucking yourself into your desired reality experience. So a little bit of mind fuckery can also get you into altered states.
Totally.
In the sense of, if we look at this model, Circuit 1 to Circuit 4 have their standard operating programs for survival navigation, right? And then if you define that as the normal state of operating, everything that takes you out of the standard operating state is an altered state. And in like Peter Carroll's chaos magic approach system, is like the idea is that you can bring in new information into your system through creating an altered state, but it is enough if you then look at like what, like Peter Carroll was like, okay, gnosis is what you need to get to imprinting new information into your system or changing something in your system. And gnosis can be reached through chemognosis or through standard psycho-spiritual techniques that have been around forever and ever in the history of human consciousness explorations or spiritual practices. But also, if you take then some developments like from Alan Chapman and Advanced Magic for Beginners, he says like, do we really need gnosis to bring in new information? Because it might be just entering an altered state can be also just shifting your standard operating protocol so that new experience can come into your system. And that could be as simple as taking another route to work where you get new sensory information and then you have an altered state in some way because you're not in your everyday trance, because you're like taking in new information and your brain has to like rewire navigation and open to a different thing. So I think that like in ritual itself creates an altered state because it takes you into a context of into a social context that is outside of the normal standard operating system of social interaction, and it might include some aesthetics, some ways of behaving in the ritual, some ways of interacting in the ritual with other people, but also with other forces that just creates an altered state of consciousness in that moment of the ritual, gnosis or no gnosis. Like even if you don't enter circuit 6, 7, 8 shenanigans, you're still having a different experience that is altered to your standard operating programming and thus creating a mind fuck that allows new information into your system.
I like that definition of altered for sure. Like and then it begs the question, well, what is unaltered? Like what is the normal state and what is a different state? And I think just phasing between different states of consciousness is altering it. Like you were saying, the non-chemical, because my time is not always my time having kids and everything. And so I always had to find, not that I haven't dabbled in the chemicals, but I've always had to find like altered states of consciousness that I could come out of quickly and go on to do something else. So that's why music was definitely my go-to for sure, playing and listening. But I found the cold water is one of my absolute favorite ways to get into an altered state. And there's no come down from it. Like you get out of the cold water and you are feeling good. Like they say it's like natural cocaine, like you're feeling awesome. and it's definitely an altered state. And there's times where I'll
Mhm.
use that to fire a sigil. Like I'll paint it and I'll set it up, and then I'll get in the ice water and then put everything into that.
Mhm.
And then after the 2 minutes or whatever you're supposed to be in there for, then you get out and you move along, and actually the rest of your day is pretty good, to be honest.
Yeah, with breath you can get all kinds of different states as well. Not just holotropic breath. Yeah, different techniques of breathing will
Oh, yeah.
get you into different states as well. Like your breath is your key for different states, actually.
Yeah, yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, holotropic is relatively new for me, just within the last couple of years. I had to do it as had to do it. I was excited to do it as part of my psychedelic training. Prior to that, I'd been doing pranayama for a number of years and learned that, or first learned about that from Bob, from Robert Anton Wilson, and
You
then
learned pranayama
well,
from Robert.
I didn't learn directly from him, but it was mentioned in Prometheus Rising, and I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Oh, what is this?" And then he made ties to Crowley, and then you look deeper and deeper, and then find somebody who's actually proficient at it. And but that had been a tool for me for a number of years, and I find that really great to access like Circuit 5 bliss states, and
Mm.
just states of awe, or just um, you know you get a high off of it, like you're feeling blissful and in an expanded state, and it's really great.
Yeah, I learned the Wim Hof style just because I had a woman who bought one of those hand pans and she wanted to learn on it. And so we bartered. She taught me the Wim Hof thing and I taught her how to play the hand pan. But there was a time where I was doing the Wim Hof thing and I was like, I felt like a didgeridoo was playing me from the inside and I'm like sweating on the floor, just like, and then I went out completely. Like I was off in la la land, straight
Yeah,
just from breathing, just for breathing certain ways.
yeah,
There's a chapter in Jamie Wheel's book, Recapture the Rapture,
yeah. Hmm.
about breathwork, where he takes it quite apart. That depending different breath techniques create a different mixture of gases in the breath and in
Hmm.
the oxygen levels. So this is what then like has an effect on the neurotransmitters and does the different state experiences. So it's
Yeah.
also about like the component, like how much oxygen, how much nitrogen, how much CO2 are you having in your
Hmm.
lungs through the different techniques of breathing that can get you just like into all kinds of like either like exalted or relaxed states. So there's some good science around that of like how to differently use your breath to reach different states.
Can you give me
Yeah.
that book name again?
Recapture the Rapture.
It's a great book, especially I found around like Circuit 5 material.
Yeah.
It was really relevant in Circuit 5.
Nice. I'm gonna check
Yeah,
that.
like reinventing death, God and sex is the subtitle, I think. And it like goes a lot into he kind of like breaks it down to technologies of consciousness that have been part of that we need like three things for evolutions, like ecstasy, community, and catharsis, right? So like all kinds of like ecstatic states and how to reach them, but also like how being in community fosters that intelligence increase in evolution, and catharsis as basically mostly also like emotional alchemy work, like moving through the emotions, moving through the trauma triggers, releasing stuck and pent up energy as well as like three ground techniques for civilization and consciousness evolution that have been around forever.
Mhm. And he's
Remember when
familiar
you were
with
reading that,
Bob's work.
did he ever reference, was it like hedonic engineering, or he had something that was clearly
Uh-huh.
Harry's work, and I remember there was something about like
He
Hedonic
talks,
engineering, yeah, I think
yeah,
so.
he talks about hedonic engineering, and he references Bob.
oh, he does, okay.
So how do we take this into the world? Like, so and I'm pretty agnostic about this, but there's always a lot of talk about how the state of the world is perhaps not so great, although I think we can find some good parts about it too. Um, I remember reading a article by Peter Carroll called "Wizards Against Tyranny," and I was wondering if you find that there's a way to maybe use these altered states, these ways to increase intelligence to help out the larger community, or do you feel like it's one on one and that'll ripple out?
Think we're doing it already, right? I mean, you are teaching the kids ripple out. You guys have brought out a book that restates the revamps the model with the state-of-the-art neuroscience and psychology, and it's hitting out and distributing that can reach a broader publicum through what we're doing here, also podcasting and talking. Me through group, I like take groups through the 8 circuit brain models, and that ripples out as well. And then my next step is like this game world creation I've been talking about, which is like a way for me to scale that work as well. And I want to be like training other people in using this model and creating experiences, offering experiences that are based on this model or based on this game world. So I think that the time has come back. I think this model has been like been dabbling in obscurity for way too long, and the work we all here are doing is part of like making it more public again, making it more accessible again, getting it to a wider public outside of the occult and woo scene in a way, and different paths to that, and that's awesome. And it's awesome that it's also converging now, right? Like this year is sort of like there's a lot happening around that. So yay, maybe it will have big impact.
That was really well said, Mariana. And also just on an individual level, just encouraging maybe just those who have already studied the model or learning it to just have a practice, whether it's a daily practice or just self-assessment, self-reflection, noticing, being mindful of throughout the day which circuits are overactive, underactive, how to, move through them, bring them into balance. And, as we were talking about earlier, just the different possible types of daily practices from breath work or dance or just making it again, just noticing which circuit you want to be mindful of, work with, and making it a conscious effort to just apply something throughout the day to have fun with it.
Yeah, and Rachel, what's on the horizon for you? You got anything new coming out?
Well, actually, so Doug and I have, so we have the workbook for 8 Circuit Ascension coming out. We have the whole course laid out. It's just a matter of recording it. And then I'm working with David J. Brown and Sarah Finn Huntley, if you guys have heard of the Illustrated Field Guides to DMT entities. We have an Oracle deck based on that artwork coming out, and it's organized according to the 8 circuit model. So that, hopefully should be out sometime next year, we're hoping. It's going to be through Inner Traditions.
Cool. Doug, how about you?
Well, the things that are tied in with Rachel, for sure. The workbook is in the editing phase, so hopefully that'll be out fairly shortly, and we'll see what happens there. Like I said, with the psychedelic work, really taking a look at and working with the 8 circuit model structure and sort of the integration process of those types of experiences and how it ties in, of course, people reaching in and healing deep early wounds that are tied into the lower circuits and things like that, and kind of putting that together. I'm also in my clinical practice starting to work with some neurofeedback and developing some protocols or some work that might be helpful in navigating the circuits there. So, and then with Rachel, we've got a couple other projects that might be coming down the line fairly shortly. We released a small book on essential oils that may tie in or might be supportive with particular circuits as well. So we've got those available and working on a few other things.
Awesome. Is there anything y'all think we haven't touched on that you'd like to talk about?
I would like to add something that we're like the next step we're prototyping. We're taking it to the Kitzbühel Festival now. And what we've created is now robots for each circuit, like LMM GPTs dedicated to each circuit based on my Chaos Magic Color avatars.
Mm-hmm.
So now we have, I put it there in the chat for you. It's still not for the public because we still have to tweak the copy a little bit. But you can now, through that webpage, interact with 8 different LMMs that are trained on each circuit. And they'll take you through a self-assessment questionnaire, and then they'll start dealing you out quests and exercises that you can do for your circuits.
Cool.
That's awesome.
And the idea is that, yeah, like based on the maps I've created, then people will like create a character based on this assessment and then start exploring the maps, and the LMMs, the chatbots, will guide them through their exploration of the maps. And based on that, yeah, we want to create a bigger mixed reality, mythopoetic, multiplayer liberation game.
I love your books, by the way. They're so awesome. I'll work into those, but they're so cool.
Yeah, are those
The
going
what?
to be published? The maps, like I was thinking it would be cool. I like the big ones for sure, but it would be almost even like cool to have like tarot card sized ones. I don't know if you'd be able to like read it, but
Yeah, not that small. But it's still on my to-do list to set up a print-on-demand shop. I have just procrastinated massively on that. But it's on my to-do list, and then the people can just like order the maps in different sizes to get them at home. And I've taken them to Breaking Convention as well, and a lot of people that are in the practice of psychedelia, so like, oh, these are awesome tools for integration, like post-trip integration. Of like, okay, so look at the map. Where were you exploring? Like, what did you encounter? And I had this experience as well. I was showing the map, and people were like, "Oh yeah, I've been there." And they're, "Oh yeah, that's like difficult territory." And oh yeah, oh my God, there. Oof, yeah, I'm a regular here. And it kind of like gives the maps themselves are psychedelic in that way
Yeah.
that they reveal where your mind is at when you look at them. And you can use them also to create your own storyline and mythopoesis of like how your unfoldment and experience has been, and what's your quest or what you want to conquer next in this world. And at the same time, they can a participant in my course used them as well, sort of as a meditation or astral meditation, guided meditation blueprints, in the sense of like, okay, yeah, I want to reach that state, so I'm looking at the map. Where do I need to walk through and navigate through to get me, say, from uh, the the desert of existential anxiety to Cape Breathwork and Safety Bay, right? So what's the territory you need to transverse to get there, and then go it through your mind and see yourself walking the territory so that you can get from one state to another. So there's like a lot of like different uses that maps can have for people, and it's been fun to see, just like without giving people much instructions what to do with the maps, how they engage with them.
well, I love that. It almost brings in the idea of the map is not the territory, and when we've used that, I think we always like almost like denigrate the map. Oh, it's just the map, but the territory. But it's almost like that's a fun way to use a map to explore like your own inner landscape. So the map becomes a tool to explore more, which I love. That's how I'm going to use them.
Yeah, right now my
So the
mind
map
is just
yeah.
going with loving the idea. Like I love that you've presented that to people as part of an integration process. And in my work with the psychedelic stuff, like if there was a like flip through atlas with each one of the maps, just for to help give people context, I think, especially for the more visual people, or just to make it fun and make it accessible.
Mm.
What I got also is that as a children's psychology for autistic kids bought a set of maps from me at Breaking Convention, and she said like, this is awesome for autistic kids to help them also describe where they are at in a more visual, plastic way, where they don't have words yet maybe for, but if they look at the maps and then can say like, oh yeah, this is where I am right now, or this is what is happening for me. that they can serve as a tool. Because I think a lot of what neurodivergent or neurospicy people experience is that they have experiences that are not mapped by standard education, right? They're like,
Mm-hmm.
they have Circuit 5, Circuit 6, Circuit 7, even Circuit 8 experiences that your standard educational system don't give them any models or any word or any map to interpret with. And then if you have this like playfully playful map that's not just theory but is like has a topographic density as well, they can more easily with their visual and like mythic mind find a way to find themselves and locate themselves in the map, which helps them, the therapists as well, to gain more access to what is actually happening for those kids.
Yeah, that's been a theme that's really been coming up in a lot of conversations for me. The question usually starts in like the psychedelic realm and uh, in terms of like neurodivergent individuals, neurospicy people, and whether or not they might, inherently have more access to that. Their filter maybe more receptive to whatever you want to call it, ground altered states and things like that, or like the telepathy tapes and the correlation to autistic children and the demonstratability for telepathic communication, which we also see in that group work and psychedelic work. But I love the idea of applying this to neurodivergent populations that, like you said, really don't have a context or a map to look to for a lot of their experiences, and it's just kind of considered outlier experiences in mainstream psychology.
Mm. That has been very revelatory for me because most of my clients are neurospicy people. I mean, I call them specifically in, and what I've found or what I think is that, yeah, I would say that a lot of what is neurospiciness or is called neurospiciness is people that are turned on in their nervous system to the circuits 5, 6, 7, 8, but suffer usually from dysregulation in circuits 1, 2, 3, 4 in
Mm-hmm.
some way,
Mm-hmm.
because they have not, like in their developmental process, there were no assist to integrate those experiences in a meaningful way. So those experiences, those shocks, as Santero Ali would call them, being like sensory overload from circuit 5,
Mm-hmm.
being like energetic overload or emotional overload coming from absorbing too much energies from circuit 6, like having an open circuit 6, or having this intense archetypical experiences that are then gaslit out of having, right? So if there is no way to support this, say, like mutant nervous system, and my hypothesis here is that through the use of psychedelics over the generations since the 60s, there have been like mutations in the nervous systems that have been activated to circuit 5, 6, 7, 8, right? And descendants and the proliferation of psychedelics is also creating more and more and more humans that have active circuit 5s to circuit 6 to circuit 7 and 8, but we have not yet, as a civilization and the educational systems, come up with ways to support little humans in navigating those altered experiences or outlier experiences. And
Yeah.
a lot of like trauma and developmental issues occur in the lower circuits for them not being able to absorb these experiences and integrate them in a meaningful way.
Well, the arts, that's why the arts are the best, and yeah, getting kids having outlets, artistic outlets, because a lot of good stuff comes in and out of that, that process. And to think that schools actually got rid of those things and still are is just, I don't even have the words for it. It's just it's so beyond me how that can happen when the science is pretty clear. Well, that might wrap it up unless anybody has anything else. This has been awesome. This has been a super cool discussion, and happy Maybe Day.
Happy
And
Monday.
yeah, we'll put all the pertinent links in the description. And yeah, can't thank you all enough for doing this. I love this. I think it's super enjoyable.
Fun, yeah.
Yeah, it's super good to see all of you.
Yeah, it's good to see. It's
Actually,
been
one
a
last
while.
thing. We all kind of shared some of what we have on the horizon. Zach, do you have anything you want to
Yeah.
talk about or your work that?
Well, yeah, it's so I'm doing my course that you can take, the musical circuits, and you can either do circuit 1 through circuit 4, it's on my website, or you could do circuit 1 through circuit 8. And I have a lot of printed material and online material and exercises, and it's good for every instrument, all ages, any skill level. And one of my ways to increase intelligence is to learn a new instrument. So I'm currently learning clarinet for no other reason than somebody gave me one. So that's a really good way to get into a new skill set that needs different knowledge. And yeah, just really, I'm just having fun teaching kids because they're in Circuit 1 through 4, the ones I work with. So it's so fun to watch that like during development, and yeah, and it's yeah, kids are the best. I mean, it's really super fun. So anyway, thank you guys so much, and we'll do this again next year, if not before. And yeah, I really appreciate it. Have a good rest of your day.
You do?